because we're probably now at about the boundaries of how small a displacement engine you could go in a vehicle, say the size of an Explorer, or as we put into some of the other vehicles. And that learning on how to execute it, and you always want to push the teams to the limit, right? Otherwise we're not really doing our jobs. But make sure that we deliver the attributes perfectly for the customer. We definitely learned a lot through this one, but we got there. I'll be really excited to roll that out.
So what's the secret then? The software control? I mean, come on. I mean, turbocharged four-cylinder direct injection.
Yeah,
even
all the
DCT transmissions have been around. So I got to believe the secret sauce is the controls.
Well, the hardware is definitely part of the enablers. So the control we can have now with direct injection, the control we can have on turbos, the ability to keep the turbos cool. So one of the things you'll see when we roll this engine out is that we've kind of integrated the exhaust manifold into the cylinder head so we can water cool it. Because temperature is one of the things you'll fight in a turbocharged engine. So the more you can keep everything cool and keep the exhaust cool, so it feeds back in, the better your opportunity to have a good performance feel. And then
let me just stop you right there. Explain a little bit. How have you integrated the exhaust system into the head?
Literally by designing some of the channels for the exhaust as it's coming out to go through into the head as it's heading back into the turbocharger, to be able to integrate it in the head so that we can have the cooling channels and the water that flows through the cylinder head cool that exhaust flow. So when it heads back into the turbocharger, it's at a lower temperature than if you normally have it just external to the head, which is the way a lot of engines have been set up. So, but how they did it, they're just really creative team. We've got, it's just designed in there. I guess that's the only way I could describe it.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see this to fully understand it.
You'll have to see it, yeah.
But then it was the controls that...
But then the controls are really a huge enabler in, not just in the ability to get the maximum performance feel for customers out of a smaller engine in a larger vehicle, but almost all the work we do these days, the emission requirements, those types of things, the control strategies is really the enabler. It's just amazing what, the electronics capability the teams have now.
You also have a 1.6 liter coming too, I think, in the passenger cars. How low can you go in displacement? Yeah. Fiat's got, for example, a two-cylinder engine out right now in Europe for the Fiat 500. You must be looking at something like that too.
We've done a lot of studies and done a lot of work in our research group to answer that question, how low can you go? Because there is a limit. And what you see is that as you start to continue to go down in displacement and putting it so the vehicle weight is going up for that particular displacement, you will hit a point where the engine has to operate at such a higher RPM to be able to give the performance feel or to be able to have the drivability that a customer would expect, to have the torque demand, that you negate the benefit of the reduced displacement. So the whole reason for an EcoBoost and for downsizing is to get the benefit of that smaller displacement, which is the biggest lever you can pull for improving fuel economy. But if you actually take it too far, you will negate it, and it's, think of it as kind of a curve. I'm getting better fuel, everything's great. Then I hit this is the optimum point, and now if I continued to go downsizing, or you continue to increase the weight of the vehicle, you put that engine in, you start to go back up a curve, and it doesn't become as efficient in the fully loaded conditions. So when you're really pushing it hard, that's where you want to make sure you haven't, that's where you make sure you're paying attention to those limits that you want to set.
What can you tell us about, which is out, I guess, June of 12, of the ST, the engine that's going to go on the Focus ST, isn't that? Can you say anything about that?
I don't think we've given any specifics on it at all yet, but it'll be, it'll be one of our EcoBoost family. So it'll have all the performance feel anyone would expect from a Focus ST.
Around 250 horsepower, rumored to be.
I can't say any of those specifics.
Hey, Peter and I were talking about this earlier in the show, or before the show. Hyundai Sonata, no V6. Now Chevrolet has said the same thing with the Malibu. I gotta believe that you guys are looking at the same kind of strategy with cars like the Fusion. Yeah,
clearly as we go forward and we start launching our new products, getting customers more and more comfortable with that downsizing, that EcoBoost strategy, which has proven really well, is clearly where we're heading also.
Because you can change, you can design with a reduced mass, you can make all kinds of advantageous decisions and in building the vehicle. So
Well,
if you don't have to accommodate a V6, then
Yeah.
you can redo the whole platform, right?
you have that opportunity, but the biggest opportunity for the customer is they get the fuel economy of that 4-cylinder engine, and without having the the big V6 in there. So they're getting all the fuel economy of a 4-cylinder. They're getting the V6 performance feel, the V6 torque and horsepower, and it's just a tremendous advantage for the customer. But the place we've done it, the number one place we've done it, which will be for me, is the real test of how well Americans are going to adopt a downsizing strategy is our F-Series. So just this, within the last 2 months, we launched our 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine in the F-Series as an alternative to a V8. And right now,
you charge more for it too, right?
well, I got to leave the pricing to the pricing experts. Well, think about it. It's a 400 foot-pound engine, so it's got the same torque, which is what truck customers really care about, as a big V8 that they'd be used to, 400 foot-pounds. And you got the full towing capability, 10,000 pounds, that you'd have with a big V8, but you're getting fuel economy that's way better. So there is value to that. A customer can quickly do the calculations. And as we've looked at pricing on EcoBoost, one of the things that we have paid very much attention to is how fast does this pay back? You don't have value for a customer if it's going to take them 6 years to pay it back. But if they pay this back in, a year and a half, and it's probably even less now, the payback time, because fuel has gone up from when we, first started doing some of those calculations, then it's got a lot of value for the customer. So it's a win-win for both of us.
So how's it doing? Is it too early to tell? Or?
It's excellent. Right now, all I know is Jim Farley is telling us they need more, and Ken Zube, who heads our sales in North America, that, they can't keep them in the dealer's lot. So it's really timed well, and it's an outstanding product.
I was at a Ford dealer about a month ago, and I know a guy who works at one, and was asking him about it, and he says, they can't get enough, and it's bringing in all kinds of customers. You just want to at least check it out, see what it's all about.
So I think that for that customer to feel very comfortable with the turbocharged engine, a downsized engine, says, in a car, it's an absolute natural in the car products.
So as you're planning Ford's global programs here, where do you see some real opportunities?
Well, I think the biggest opportunity is to really continue to leverage what we're doing globally. So right now we've really got to the point where we've started to launch in every region these global products. We got a global Fiesta out, a global Fusion out, a global Focus out, and we're just keep working our way through them all. And the real opportunity, at least in my current job, is to leverage the benefits of that for us and for our customers, the economies of scale that brings, the economies in the engineering work, because we're engineering it once and being able to utilize it across the globe, having common bill of process in our plants so that our manufacturing plants can leverage that economies of scale, whether it's in Chongqing in China or whether it's in Pacheco down in South America or here in the U.S. So it's really the biggest opportunity is to harvest all of that for our customers, and then we pass that, you pass that on.
So the real benefits of this really haven't fully hit, is what I think I'm hearing you say.
I feel that way because, again, this has been a journey, a long journey that we've been on about the last 5 or 6 years.
One Ford.
Yeah, it's been a journey, and we're just realizing the fruits of it. There are clearly some learnings along the way, some things that we didn't realize initially that we now know we can go back and get, and then we have to finish that whole journey, with our Transit product, with our Fusion products, with all the other products that we have lined up to take them on a global basis.
What's Ford doing in terms of going upscale? And the reason I ask it is this. Ford was very profitable last year. I think the second most profitable car company in the world, which is astonishing compared to where it was just a few years earlier. Number one profit maker in the world was Volkswagen, which has brands like Audi and Lamborghini and Bugatti and so on and so forth. And I just see Volkswagen being able to pull farther and farther ahead of Ford because of that. How do you respond from a product standpoint to get something more upscale that can make more money for the company?
Well, two things. One is, I think we made a very good decision, and Alan Mullally had a very good focal point around one Ford. So we had a lot of upscale brands, but our ability to really focus on the Ford brand is what ultimately led us to be able to have such a great year last year and that profitability. But the second thing is a clear recognition that we do need a luxury brand, and we've been very clear that Lincoln is where we want to invest our time, energy, and develop a real luxury premium product. So right now, we've got a whole group of people that are focused on what does luxury really mean, and then integrating that into our Lincoln brand. And no one's saying that's going to be easy. We've got a marketplace to deal with. We've got perceptions that are out there already that we're going to have to change. But I know we've got the ability to do it. I know we can put the product on the road that'll satisfy the customer. And then it's that question of time and consistent delivery until they start recognizing it. But we made a very clear statement that Lincoln is going to be where we invest in terms of having a luxury brand. What's
your thought then? Does a luxury car or a luxury brand at least have to have one or two vehicles that are rear drive?
That's always a good debate at Ford, that's for sure, because we do have a rear-wheel drive platform. We have the Mustang, and right now it's actually not a global platform. It's regional, and it's going to be with us a very long time. So having opportunity to leverage a platform for a Lincoln brand is something we're always looking at. But as you fast forward, all-wheel drive capability and the technologies like disconnect when you want to disconnect your all-wheel drive, those types of technologies I think are going to enable luxury brand to be seen more for the attributes it delivers, rather than whether it's a rear-wheel drive or whether it's a front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. And there's a real definitive set of performance feel, drivability, and technologies like torque vectoring that really will enable front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive platforms to deliver the benefits that they deliver, because there's a lot of customers that just feel more comfortable with driving an all-wheel drive or front-wheel drive in a place like Detroit, where you got a lot of snow in the winter, you got a lot of ice, and you may not have a choice for a second car that you're going to drive if the weather's bad. But at the same time, provide some of the driving dynamics that rear-wheel drives are known for.
And
so leveraging those technologies on our Lincoln brand is really the key for us.
Will Lincoln get its own platform or platforms?
I'm not going to speculate on where we're going to go on that. So
she'll have to take the Sergeant
I'll have
Schultz
to take I'll have to take
I know nothing.
Is it the fifth to take here when you don't want to answer any of those?
That's right.
Yeah, you just say I got to take the Sergeant Schultz on that one.
Yeah, and then and I got to believe another big discussion has been: do you take the Lincoln brand global?
Yeah, that's another one that I wouldn't give specifics on, but I believe as we develop it into the luxury brand that it can be, it certainly would have a home in some other markets outside the United States.
Clearly that's a long, but you got to go end up in China with it. So
China and a number of other places. I've said all along, if you really want to take on Mercedes, BMW, Audi, you got to go global. And an advantage of them being global is they can come out with these what look to us like very low volume products, but again, they're building them all around the world, or selling them all around the world, I should say. And so they can exploit these little niches in the American luxury segment that heretofore Cadillac and Lincoln have never been able to respond to, again, because they're a global car companies that sell all over the world. So what may seem like very low volume to us here is probably decent enough volume to justify doing those vehicles.
Yeah.
So let's take another break here, and I'm sorry, it's got to be for one of your competitors here, Barb.
Okay,
but
I'll try to be quiet.
Okay. I want to take a moment to talk about Chevrolet Cruise, which you can check out at chevrolet.com/cruise, and of course that's CRUZE. You can get the all-new Cruise Standard with either a 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic, Premium, Pioneer 9-speaker sound system. It's got all kinds of other things that you ought to check out, including some pretty good fuel economy here.
They showed that Eco.
Well, they showed the Malibu Eco
at
the New York show.
That was like 38 on the highway.
Was it that? Okay. And of course, the Cruise Eco is 41 Highway.
Right.
And you can check that all out at Chevrolet.com/cruise, and of course that's CRUZE. And so where else? What else you want to talk about here, Barb?
Oh my, let's see.
What do you like to do in your free time that
Free
you don't
time.
have?
Free time. What
What's
is that? Actually, the team, we were talking today and we said, oh, we get a 3-day weekend. Maybe we'll get 2 days off.
Right.
So, no, well, actually, what I've been spending time on now, my son is a senior in high school. So, he got all the college stuff back, and now went around and visited several of the colleges for him to make a decision on where he wants to go.
Ooh.
So
Big decision time.
that's big decision time. That is big decision time.
In all the global platforms, then you play with everything, truck, commercial,
Yes.
pass car,
Yep.
Australia, Europe, everything.
Yeah, again, operating as one global product development organization, then we're looking at the developing all the products across this one group. So, we're a global organization, and we cover all the products, whether it's the sub Bs or all the way up to the the full-size Super Duties and even the cargos. We have responsibility, and my team has responsibility for the cargos that we do in Turkey as well as down in South America. So it's been an interesting 3.5 months that I've been in the job.
We have more than a few fans in Australia, and they're always peppering us with questions about what's going to happen with the Falcon there. What's going to happen with the Falcon there?
Oh yeah, again, unfortunately, I can't talk about any future product plans, but as we look through all the different regions and the still regional products we have, one of the things that is very important from our planning perspective is how do we leverage some of the common platforms that we can have now to make sure we provide the product that meets those needs in each one of the regions. That's a critical function.
I guess we can talk about colleges you visited.
That gets you a new product, way in the future type stuff.
But the Falcon's rear.
We can talk hypothetically.
The Falcon's rear drive, isn't it?
The Falcon, yes.
Yeah.
The Falcon is a rear-wheel drive
So
platform.
you have 2 rear drive platforms.
Yeah, that's
Pass
true.
car.
That's true. We do have 2 rear-wheel drive platforms.
At least for not right now.
That's correct.
I mean, you can envision if the next generation Mustang will also have to, there might be a Lincoln based off that platform too.
One would think. That's right. Barb seems
Our
to be
planners
hinting
are
at
always our planners are always looking at how do we optimize what assets we have, and how do we maximize the great product we can bring out to our customers. So we're always trying to do that for sure.
Cool. We're about ready for rapid fire here, but we should take one more commercial break because I'd like to do that before interrupting rapid fire, because once we get rolling on that, we get rolling. So I want to take another moment here to thank Bridgestone Tire, and specifically Bridgestone America's tire operation. Bridgestone, of course, is the world's largest tire company. They have a full line of premium products, whether it's their run flat tire, their winter tires, their performance or touring tires. They would like me to say it's Bridgestone or nothing, and you can check that all out at bridgestonetire.com, and they really do have some good stuff there. So let's, Ben, let's get to rapid fire. What?
Love the graphics.
Right. Okay, our first question's from Sandy Barua, who actually runs the Detroit Regional Chamber of Commerce. And he says, like many, I'm really rooting for Lincoln's renaissance. What can you say, this is to you, Barb, what can you say about Lincoln regarding hybrid drive with all-wheel drive, diesels, and a return to a rear-wheel drive flagship?
Okay, we already been through the rear-wheel drive, but in terms of hybrid, we have a Lincoln hybrid out there right now, our MKZ. So that's available.
Oh, that's a great question. Now you have the option of going just hybrid or no hybrid,
Same
right?
MSRP, you can go hybrid or non-hybrid.
What's the take rate on the hybrid?
Oh, I don't know it off the top of my head, unfortunately.
Last time I checked, it was doing very well.
It's doing
very well,
extremely
because
well, but I don't have the percentage off the top of my head how many go with them.
I've been meaning to look that up.
I should get that number.
I want to get that number.
Yeah.
Because if it's not 100%, I'm going to say, what's wrong with hybrids? I mean, because as you know, they're still less than
It is
3% of the market.
Fantastic powertrain, fantastic propulsion system.
I just had one.
Absolutely
it's
fantastic.
great.
But I still say, total hybrid sales are still less than 3% of the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. market, and 75% of that less than 3% are all Toyotas. So that's why I remain a hybrid skeptic.
Well, as you look at hybrid sales, they are very dependent also on what's going on with fuel prices. So as fuel prices go up, hybrid sales will also
they'll go up.
And we've seen
Maybe
that
they'll
also.
get to 3%.
Yeah. And diesel, I'll answer this more generically,
yeah.
but it'll absolutely apply to Lincoln also. Diesels in the United States in passenger cars is just economics for me. For the customers too. So a diesel engine in the U.S. To emissionize it costs even more than it does to emissionize it in Europe. And just to give an example, the NOx limits in the United States now with our current emission levels are more stringent than the NOx levels for Euro Stage 6, which hasn't come into play yet. So we have a very stringent emission levels for diesels, requires a lot of after treatment to put on it. So it becomes a proposition that you have to, pay a premium at the dealership, at least some level of premium. Typically, right now, if you go to buy a passenger car diesel, maybe a $2,000, $2,500 premium would seem like a reasonable one. And then if you look at the price of diesel versus petrol in the gas stations, I think now it's probably about 30 cents at least, if not more. I've seen it even recently as much
30
as
cents
40.
is what I saw today.
30 cents is about the delta between regular petrol and a diesel, or petrol and a diesel. Diesel fuel. And if you just do the math, even though the diesel's getting you more miles on that every gallon you put in, but every time you're at the pump, you're paying more for each gallon. It goes back to that payback discussion we talked about on EcoBoost. If customers make very rational decisions. So if it pays me back, in a year and a half, that's a good payback. I'm, going to keep my car 4 years. I'll more than earn that back. But if it takes me 7 years to pay it back, it's going to be a little bit of a harder decision.
That's a real failure of our EPA.
So that to me is the bottom line why diesels, much as I know Volkswagen tries, and some Mercedes and BMW certainly have, performance, higher end diesels. But overall, it's not something that customers are really demanding in the United States because it's very hard to make the business case for them, for the customer to make.
I'm told for a V6 or a V8, you're looking at about $4,000 in emissions equipment.
That's probably not, that's probably a little high. But it's thousands.
But to me, that points to the failure of EPA and the way they go about it. Because if they just backed off a little
bit, right? Especially on NOx, like you're mentioning,
it would
Barb.
save the consumers money, would save the manufacturers money. We'd see more affordable diesels, and it would make sense if they just backed up. But there's no vision.
Well, it has to be also with the working in conjunction with the oil companies, because in Europe there was a conscious decision by the governments to have a CO2 solution that included diesel. So they tax petrol, so it was always above diesel, and that really drove people to they do the math real quick,
right.
And they say this is great. I don't ever have, hardly have to go fill it up.
But you're saying, the next round of emission standards in Europe still will not catch up to where we are today.
I believe we are.
So that's why I agree with Peter. Just back off a little bit, and man, we could see some real fuel economy improvements. And it's not like we're going to be killing people from dirtier air.
Yeah.
No, that's such a misconception on diesels that I still think is in the United States a little bit too. That noisy diesel, which that's not it at all anymore.
Okay, we've got another question here that goes to you, Barb. This guy says, who is this? This goes on a little while, but okay, it's from C. Newstrand from Birmingham, Alabama. He says, I think Ford's shooting themselves in the foot by not updating the Ford Ranger in the U.S. market. We get a lot of mail on this. And he's owned a Ranger for 17 years. He needs to replace it. He doesn't like the Nissan Frontier, the Toyota Tacoma. He says the F-150 is a nice truck, but it's too big for me. Why not the Ford Ranger here?
Yeah, as you look at where Ranger and its competitors have gone in this marketplace, excuse me, over the past several years, the physical size of those vehicles is getting bigger. So if you look at the Tacoma, if you look at anybody who's put one out, they're getting physically bigger, and they start to encroach on F-150. At the same time, as we're working on our next generation F-150, one of the key attributes there is taking out substantial weight to get a fuel economy a fuel economy delivery that really, again, starts to come down and impinge on where a Ranger would be. So we just did a new global Ranger, and we've got it, we just rolled it out at several auto shows, about to launch it very soon. That vehicle does kind of get close to the size of an F-150, so it creates a situation where if you really need a pickup truck, we've got the perfect pickup truck, it's an F-150, and then as we continue to take weight out, take the fuel economy down, it meets what those customers that currently buy Rangers really are looking for is good fuel economy. That's what they really are driving for, and we've got the technologies that we've been adding to and continue to add to an F-150 to deliver that.
But one Ford, right? I mean, do you see a point down the road where it converges?
Well, that's a good question, because we're, a bit of a unique marketplace with F-Series types of trucks.
We have so much volume in the F-Series in North America. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's only in this market.
Oh, yeah. North America, F-Series has so much volume that it's like a global product. But it's interesting, this is the only market that has that type of trucks. Everywhere else, they use Ranger, and don't get any bigger than Ranger with a pickup truck like an F-Series, and then they move into the transit-style trucks, that very cab-forward transit-style trucks. And it's interesting. That's the way it is pretty much everywhere.
Right, but the Ranger, the new Ranger, is coming awfully close to the F-150 in total capability, and so that's why I wonder, could it converge, at least the platform converge at some point?
Yeah, and that's something we always look at too as we do our product planning, where we do have a product that is getting so close to each other, do they eventually need to merge into one?
Peter, here's one for you. This is from Ed Joris. He says, do you agree with me that for the sake of non-NASCAR road racing, that IndyCar and ALMS need to form some kind of business partnership, if not an outright merger?
Well, it wouldn't be a merger of equals right now, because IndyCar is definitely the one.
Bigger name.
I think the dual weekends are really good. They give the enthusiast consumer a lot of bang for the buck, and it makes all the sense in the world. And if IndyCar, ALMS wants to partner up with IndyCar, I think would be smart, because there's very few weekends that ALMS can run on their own anymore. And I think, Sebring and Petit Le Mans, otherwise they should be partnering up with IndyCar.
Steve in Redlands, California says, the Fremont, California plant, the NUMMI plant that was the joint venture between Toyota and GM, was said to be perhaps the best assembly plant in North America in terms of the quality of the cars it produced.
True.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
No, that's not true.
It was a good plant.
It was a good plant for a while, but it was exceeded by several other plants.
Right.
By both Ford and GM.
And so this guy goes on to say, and who is this? I guess I don't have the name there. He says it was, oh, no, I said that at the beginning. It's Steve in Redlands, California. He said it formerly was a GM plant and was apparently a textbook example of lousy Detroit management and union excess and abuse. He'd love to hear our take on it. Yeah, it was. It was a poor plant. Toyota took it over. They did the whole Toyota production system thing. It turned out to be a very productive plant. But Toyota walked away from it. And GM collapsed, and then Toyota walked away. And this is something that the UAW is, I think, going to start to face as announced it wants to organize a transplant. There were 3 UAW organized transplants. NUMMI, the one that this guy's talking about, Diamond Star in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, which is on its last legs, and what used to be known as Auto Alliance here in Flat Rock, Michigan, which Mazda used to run, and Ford's sort of taken it over, and there's question marks as to whether that plant's going to survive either. So my take is, the union's got to be able to prove it can take over a transplant and have this thing healthy and keep on running. Hey, Ben, did I hear we had a call come in? Should we bring a call in here?
Hey, good day, John. My name is Jim John Matisse. I'm calling from the U.S. Virgin Islands. My question is, do you know Ford plans to build another Ford GT, something to compete against the COVID? Since I'm a third-generation Ford nut, And do you have plans to bring anybody on your show, drag racing legends, especially in the Ford arena? Thanks, and you guys are great. Autoextremist, you're my kind of guy. Okay.
We had a great show last summer from the Ford Museum, and we had John Force and a bunch of drag guys on. So, but I can answer that. There's not going to be another Ford GT anytime soon.
Oh, darn it.
Barb doesn't have to be put on the spot. I can tell you that's not going to
But right now, we don't have plans for, I can tell you that. Right now, we don't have plans.
Yeah.
Should
was a
Ford
great,
have something to take on the Corvette?
That's an interesting one. I don't personally.
Not that
I don't.
the Ford
yeah.
GT took on the Corvette. It was like, another class of car.
Yeah,
But that-
Ford GT was another class of car, and we certainly have Shelbys with our Mustang line, and we take our Mustang line up very, very far in terms of performance vehicles. So for us, I think, and for a lot of customers, I think it does fill that niche for them that they're looking for. But the Corvette, in and of itself, we're much more focused on something like a Mustang, and having something that's not just fast and fun, but also very, very affordable, which is what distinguishes the Mustang. But we do take it up with our Shelby variants and KR variants, and oh my goodness, all the things that we do to that product that certainly competes.
Oh yeah,
on
like the new
performance.
Laguna Seca
Head-to-head,
302
yeah.
is just
It's
awesome performance.
Awesome vehicles, awesome performance vehicles.
But should
So I
Ford
think we
have
just-
a
we just
halo
trend that way.
vehicle? I mean, I doubt that General Motors makes money on the Corvette. I really do. But it does bring people into the Chevrolet showrooms who may not otherwise go in there. And I think it really can. I don't think it quite yet, but I think the Corvette can really stand for something like it once did, and I think the next generation will get there. But I'm just asking,
guess
should Ford
if I
have
just
something
look
that they
at-
go, ta-da, look what we can do?
If we just look at the last 2 or 3 years and how we've progressed the brand and the brand image, I think we've done extremely well without having anything you could point to as a ta-da. I think there's a lot of heritage at Ford. There's a lot of family at Ford, and then the ability to put out outstanding and fantastic products that really sets the halo for us across the board with our customers. I think it's done pretty well. When you look at our brand perception in the marketplace, when you look at customer loyalty, and right now I think we just moved into first place in a Polk survey on customer loyalty. So that's what you'd want to do, right, with a halo product. And I think we've been very successful in actually achieving it without having one. And instead using that money, that time, and that attention to really perfect the mass products that we're sending out to folks.
Darn it, that answer makes sense to me, but I want a
I know,
halo
it does
car.
make sense, but it's not, that's a very rational, non-emotional answer, wasn't it?
I think down the road, if we see Ford back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with an engine, and maybe eventually back at Le Mans, then that trickle down will just naturally flow to your products. And plus there's a next generation Mustang coming.
Always Mustang.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what's your whole thought? Peter and I are so pro racing and using motor racing as a way of developing technology. What are your thoughts along those
Yeah,
lines?
actually, very much agree with you. Then a lot of the Ford racing products that we put out, a lot of them, especially for like the Mustangs, a lot of the work we do starts with the racing team, starts with the Mustang, and then it cascades into the mainstream technologies, not just for Mustang, but for other products also. So it is a very good, I don't want to call it a test bed, but it's a very good proving ground for some of the technologies that we want to cascade to, broader products.
Great. Ben, do we have another call there?
Hi, this is Jim from Sioux Falls. Sam, I'm wondering if Barb could talk a little bit about the plug-in F-150 that's supposed to be coming up at the SEMA show. Saw it on Autoblog Green, and it looked like a pretty cool vehicle. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Well, I think that's probably being done by one of our partners or, in conjunction with us helping them because we do have some converters that take F-150s. They'll also take Econolines and convert them into electric vehicles. So I think that's what you'll be seeing at SEMA. Right now, as we look at delivering that kind of, jaw-dropping next generation fuel economy in pickup trucks. Right, for a F-150, it's really taking a lot of the weight out of the vehicle without impacting the payload capability, so we maintain all the payload capability, and going down in engine, so it's further, downsizing in the engine offerings that we provide there. But we're always working with people that that take our product and they do convert it into, into like a hybrid, in an aftermarket kind of manner.
I don't think the pickup truck consumers are quite prepared for what's coming and to meet the mileage standard.
No, they may not be. I just don't see, and maybe things will change, typical pickup buyer going for a plug-in pickup.
That's, because first of all, you'd need a battery, which is taking up space. And when you get into the pickup trucks, the best thing you can do is make sure they don't have any idea how you delivered that great fuel and met those regulations. Because they just they need that product to have the towing capability and to have the payload carrying capability. And a battery, unfortunately, is very heavy these days. I'm sure as battery technology continues to evolve and the energy density gets better and the weight management gets better, it'll become a very viable technology across a broad range of products. But for right now, you don't want to do anything that impacts that payload. So our objective is, customers won't actually even know everything we've done to a vehicle. They just know this thing's got better performance, better fuel, and better payload capability than the one I bought last time.
What are you doing about reducing weight? I mean, Detroit products, notoriously, not so much you guys, but even so, historically, Detroit products have always been pretty heavy, and any kind of material substitution is a very costly way of getting lighter weight. Are there other things that you can do from a design standpoint? Section design, especially, I'm wondering, to take weight out.
Oh, yeah, weight is another one that's just an intensive attention to detail to continually manage weight. But first you do have to start with, you got a shadow area for a vehicle. If you have the biggest shadow area of anybody else, then your vehicle will probably be heavier than anyone else. So you start with fundamentally setting up your proportions so that you get the right shadow area to meet all the needs of the customer, but not disadvantage yourself or give yourself any extra size and weight that you have to take care of. But in an existing platform, there's all kinds of technologies we utilize, as well as just that attention to detail. If you have a solid disc, the component in a vehicle that's a disc, you can put lightning holes in it. You just literally take out some of the weight by putting in adding some holes. Paying very close attention to section management. When we do all of our crash management, making sure that we take the crash pulse and that we distribute it in the most cost-effective, the most effective manner, so that we can make sections as thin as possible. And you're just paying attention to all those things. Seat technology. We have a thin seat technology that we've been working on that's just amazing. So if you open your door and you look at the width of your seat, it
takes up a lot of room.
Takes up a lot of room there, right? You got about 8 inches. But this is, taking that and cutting that even in half. So there's lots of design and technology. And typically when you take out material, you also make it less expensive. So there's it's kind of, there are some weight buys that we do. There's sometimes we do decide to spend money to take weight out, but there are more times where we just get our designs more efficient and we take out more weight. And typically the path we have been on is the design efficiencies that don't cost you anything. You're actually taking weight out, and in many instances saving money as you're taking that weight out, are far more than where we actually pay for weight reduction with a new material or a new technology.
That's the best of both worlds.
That's the best
Cut
of
cost
both
and
worlds.
weight.
Right, absolutely.
As Colin Chapman said, add lightness.
Add lightness. There you go.
That's great. Hey, we're coming up at the top of the hour. Ben, we got any more calls that we should get to?
Yeah, several. You want to run through them?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Jeff W. from Albany, New York. My question this week is Ford ever going to export the Ford Mustang, or any plans to export the Ford Mustang to Europe? I have some cousins in Poland who constantly ask me about it. They read the American car magazines, and they just love that car, and it's a great, iconic American vehicle.
Yeah,
just curious, thanks.
Sure. As we're, thanks for your question and thanks for calling in. But as we're looking at all of our product lineup, even those that are regional, having a mechanism to decide whether or not we've got a business case to take it global is definitely something we're looking at. So
I am so down
I
for
don't
the
have
American
I don't have
manufacturer.
any specific plans right now to do that, but that is definitely something we're thinking about.
Yeah, I like this question because
at it, yeah.
I'm so down on the American manufacturers. I don't think GM, Ford, or Chrysler do nearly enough to export vehicles out of this country and start helping our balance of payments that way. Because I agree with him. I think the Mustang would do well.
Yeah,
in a
there are many
lot more
markets that would like the Mustang.
In fact, I still think you guys ought to try. Stick your toe in the water. Take an F-150 over to China, see what happens. Because I think there's a true car culture developing in China. I think they'd flip over those pickup trucks. I know everybody tells me I'm crazy.
Well,
I think somebody ought to stick their toe in the water and see what happens.
Yeah, again, I see that market. I actually see the car market very much like the North American market. The drivers are looking, Chinese drivers seem to be looking for the same types of attributes that we have in North America, which are different in the U.S. than you say European. You know, automatic transmission, looking for the same kind of shift quality we have. The size of the vehicles, bigger cars. But I also see it's the same kind of truck segment seems to be evolving. That's evolved in the rest of the world, which keeps us the only guys driving around in the big pickups, traditional pickups.
I think some people might be
That's
surprised.
interesting. I'll take that back to our planners.
Okay. Well, they'll tell you it's crazy because that's what everyone's told me. Ben, let's bring in another call here.
Good evening, people. This is Youngblood from Cleveland, Ohio. Got a question for Barb Smartest. In the future, what do you see a V6, that like 3.7 liter V6 single turbo EcoBoost for the Mustang? That's a wild setup you have right now and could really use a turbo. That and another question. Remember back in the mid-'80s, you had the SVT Mustangs with the, I think it was a 2.3 turbocharged four-cylinder. You think we might ever see one of those again? A real wild four-banger in a Mustang, lighten it up a little bit, make it a real sweet piece. I'm interested in your answers. Thank you very much and have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you. As we take our EcoBoost strategy and we cascade it across more and more platforms, I think having a downsize like an i4 engine with turbocharging in a Mustang platform would be, a very viable solution. But I think it goes back again to making sure that we deliver. That would be a V6 replacement, if you will. So that V6 customer's got certain expectations for, the performance feel, the drivability, the sound of the engine, that it's going to sound like a Mustang, and making sure we deliver all that. And if we can deliver all that in an i4 package, that is a good solution for that customer because, again, it provides that fuel economy opportunity they're looking for. I'm surprised he mentioned a V6 turbocharged because normally Mustang customers want the 5-cylinder to be the turbocharged one for the EcoBoost engine in Mustang. So that's the question I usually get. Why don't you turbocharge that 5-liter? Turbocharge that V8.
Yeah, although I like him pointing out the SVT Mustang, which was a pretty cool Mustang. I like that whole series.
Yeah.
Real driver's cars. Ben, we got another one?
Hey, John, this is Doug D'Agostino in Riverside, California, and I'm interested in knowing about the Fusion engine selection, when they're going to get an EcoBoost, and what size EcoBoost it will be. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Yeah, I appreciate the call. Unfortunately, I can't give you specifics at this point in time because we haven't announced all of that. But I am going to say, an EcoBoost in a Fusion is a natural. So,
right, an EcoBoost
Public
in every
affairs is
engine
off
compartment.
stage here. I don't want them to come running over. So,
Right. Let's bring in another one, Ben.
Yeah, hi guys. My question is, in the near future, with all these small four-cylinder cars, do you think there's a niche for a two-seat sports car, like, say, the old MG that they used to make and the Triumphs? I think there's they'd sell them, especially with the motors they're producing now. Okay, hey, thanks a lot.
Thanks. Two-seat sports car?
You never know.
niche is the key, right? Niche is the key word in that discussion because we've had two-seat. There's two-seaters out there, but they're always very, very small volume. They do very well the first couple of years, and then they just serve a niche purpose.
I think the key with Ford is always that when it's performance, it's Mustang, and the only other possible way to go was like the Ford GT, and so I don't see them doing it. You and I are probably the only ones that remember what that original Mustang concept looked like. Remember that?
The
Mustang was really sweet, little mid-engine.
Mid-engine thing, right.
But, the Mustang franchise is Ford, so.
Absolutely.
But even though, if you talk about it being a niche, if it's a niche in 100 markets, it might add up to some reasonably good volume.
Mm-hmm. You might see a two-seater Lincoln.
Well, now you're talking.
Now you're talking.
Because, I like that idea a whole lot. Right.
Two-seat, rear-wheel drive Lincoln that when people say, wow, that's a Lincoln.
That makes a lot of sense to me.
That's what they need to do.
Yeah. Ben, do we have another call?
Hey, John, this is Rick from San Diego. I was wondering if Lincoln was going to consider a 3 Series C-Class competitor. I mean, in 2008, the market was about 900,000 globally, and I think it's a great opportunity. Any comments? Thanks.
Yeah, as we go through our whole revitalization of Lincoln and look across the Lincoln product, we recognize we have some, holes that we'll want to fill. So I think our objective is going to be to have a full product lineup in that segment. Whether it's a 3 Series competitor and all the way up. So that's the the opportunity we have with Lincoln as we revitalize it, is to make sure that we put product out that fills all those niches.
And he raises a good point. That is a volume segment in the luxury segment.
Yeah.
So, that makes a lot of sense to jump into. Ben, do we have another call yet?
Hi, this is John from New York. The EcoBoost Ford Taurus police car is about $10,000 cheaper than the Taurus SHO EcoBoost V6. Is Ford now more a fleet company instead of a consumer-oriented company? Thank you very much. Bye.
I didn't know we had announced the pricing on the police cars yet, and the Taurus police.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it.
I haven't heard that one yet, so I guess I'm, you can just use the data and look at the data. We have done an excellent job of managing how much goes into fleet, how much goes into retail. The police is a very, very important fleet customer for us, extremely important, and making sure that we are able to offer them, as we phase out our Crown Victoria, that we are able to offer them a fantastic product that not only meets all the needs that the Crown Vic has served for them for many, many years, but also exceeds anything our competitors can offer them, is absolutely crucial for us. And that's very important business. So I'm proud to have that business.
Yeah.
We want to keep that business.
And everybody else wants to steal it away from you now that the Crown
business.
Vic's going away.
But I think overall, I know I find this personally when I go out on a trips and want to rent a car, I sometimes have trouble finding a Ford in the rental fleet to rent, because we just have really backed off a lot. Yeah,
wow.
We've cut back a lot.
Jeez. Ben, do we have another call here?
Yes, my name is Andrew. I'm calling from Elkhart County, Indiana. As a manufacturer of recreational vehicles, I'm curious as to where the future plans for sport utility vehicles and how it pertains to trailer ability and the towing ability of these vehicles moving forward as people are beginning to downsize from full-size SUVs to mid-size SUVs. Thank you.
Oh, interesting question.
Yeah, well, I think there's a place for both the small, mid, and full-size SUVs. So something like our Navigator or our Expedition, I think that's going to be an option for customers that need full towing capability for a very long time. And the challenge there is to make them more and more fuel efficient so that they're not disadvantaged by the fact that they need to have that towing capability. And that's where strategies like our EcoBoost come into play, in making sure that as we again cascade those across all of our platforms and further out along our product line, that we could realize that. And then, mid-size, we just did a total revamp of our, Explorer. And that's, got great fuel economy, got very good towing capability, 5,000 pounds. We've got a really great product there for a customer that's looking for some more of a mid-size traditional utility.
What about, because we haven't talked about the vans, that Econoline's been around forever.
Yeah.
You've got this terrific van in Europe, Transit, Again, one Ford. Do you see them converging? And apropos of the person who just called in, Econoline's used a lot
It's
in
the fleets, yeah.
Also in the RV segment. You know, you guys sell a lot of Econoline chassis that get built up into other things too. So, wither Econoline in the future.
I think Econoline will be with us a long time, but I think that starting that transition to get and again, Econoline has a lot of fleet customers, and we also send them to the, the upfitters, the chassis to the upfitters, and we've been working very closely with them to expose them to our transit product in Europe and to get their feedback on it. Because the one thing we want to do, again, it's like the police fleets, you want to be really sensitive that the product you're going to offer these folks is going to meet their needs, that they understand the conversions involved in actually changing. Because, that's one thing with our fleet customers. It's a big decision to change a platform or to go, say, to another manufacturer because you've got your whole fleet, everything you've done to customize it set up around one platform. So we've been in a very good dialogue with our fleets trying to understand if we did go to a platform like our Transit Global platform and take that into North America, how would it play with an Econoline? What would conversions look like? What would they be thinking of in terms of what they'd need to understand about the product to make it a viable choice for them? So that's definitely something we're thinking about and, actively working with our fleets on to just really understand what the potential might be. But in the meantime, that Econoline has just been a fantastic product for them. So we will keep that one also, of course.
Ben, we got another one?
That's it for tonight.
Okay, real good. Well, thank you all for having brought in so many questions. And thank you, Barb, for coming in and talking all about this stuff. This has been fantastic. And Peter, great seeing you again.
Thanks, John.
And we'll do it again next week.
Yes, we will.
So I got to thank everybody who's watched everything. Thank our sponsors for making this whole show possible. And please join us again next week.
Autoline After Hours is brought to you by Bridgestone, passion for excellence. Chevrolet, the all-new Chevrolet Cruze. Get used to more. And by Hyundai. Experience the 2011 Hyundai Sonata today at HyundaiSonata.com.
And just a few last mentions here. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Autoline Detroit. Follow us at twitter.com/Autoline or twitter.com/Autoextremist. And you can also not only just go and read all this great stuff at autoextremist.com, look for Peter's book, Witch Hunt, which is out right now.
Yes.
And I just got Lutz's book, too.
I just did, too, the little, little reader version.
Yeah. So I've read, I think, the introduction. That's about as far as I got. So I have to see what that's about, and we'll get Bob back here at some point. But cool. Thank you so much for coming here. This has been great. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks, Rich.